What's going on, ladies and gents, boys and girls, guardians of all ages? Joker back again, once again, except I'm not Joker. No introductions today, I'm afraid, because you're not here to listen to me caterwaul about me. Oh no, dear viewer, you're here to see me objectively rank the Destiny waifus. How did it come to this? Why am I doing this? Well, during a live stream, Darkside Royalty's Wicked Joker linked a tier list for fun, and I bit. I made the following list, and while nothing came of it but a couple people getting a good chuckle or feeling a bit of cringe, Joker himself actually responded to it. And he, gasp, shock, horror, lightning crackle, lightning crackle, lightning crackle, didn't take too kindly to it.
But Joker! You hear me cry in my shrill, tremulous voice?
Now, the joke in and of itself is fairly harmless, but you know what? It made me think, is this just a bad hot take? Am I the one who's wrong? Or is it the children? Of course, this being the internet, my opinion is more important than all of the other opinions, and right now that opinion is the most important of things and the least important of places. Waifus and Destiny. So, here we are at Tier Maker with the tier list that Joker linked in his live stream. Now, I'm going to go through and objectively, that's right, this is not opinion, this is hard fact, rank the eligible ladies of the Destiny lore. Why not all the characters? Because everyone not named Shax is trash tier except Zavala, who's a meme, Cade, who's dead, Aldrin, who's that broody emo kid, and Saladin, whose legendary Alzheimer's diagnosis deleted my status as an Iron Lord, so fuck him. Now to the meat and potatoes, doing this in order of appearance on this list. 801. Starting off in D tier, I don't know much about 801 except she's got kind of an attitude about Guardians for basically no reason and is linked to the two most contentious pieces of content in Destiny 2. Forges, and by extension, AFK farming. Both of which have been summarily stamped out of any use or relevance at this current time. Standing next to that, she'd have to be the single best character in the game to get away from the ton 618 size gravity well of badness. Alas, she's not. The exemption from being trash tier is only due to my own unfamiliarity with the character. Moving on. Amanda Holiday. Amanda seems to me like a relic of a bygone era. There's never any reason to go to her, as she offers nothing in-game and the lore surrounding her is just flat. She's got a decent aesthetic. I know I like my southern-styled girls, and the tomboyish mechanic flavor does hit me just right, but the presentation itself leaves a lot to be desired. So, despite ticking my boxes, her relative unimportance past giving you a doodad in D1 leaves her in C tier. Anna Bray. Getting pushed harder than Captain Marvel, the infamous traitor of Twilight Gap faked her own death and shacked up with the worst war criminal on Earth, the war mine Rasputin. If it wasn't for her, we'd never have gotten access to Ol Undying's arsenal, and the Almighty, through a severely convoluted chain of literally impossible events, would have killed all of us. I mean, it should have anyway, but there's a saying about writers not being mathematicians, and I'm inclined to agree in this instance. She's got a smug, I'm right about everything aura to her, even taking credit when you do something, because if she wasn't there, you wouldn't have been able to do the thing in question. The plot goes out of its way to revolve around her, vindicating every bad decision she has, but ultimately making her a central fixture in the world. Due to her contrived importance, and she ain't too bad to look at. She gets a solid C tier. Lady Ephrodite. Known as the Titan Thrower by those who, like me, would undoubtedly want to be turned into a missile of pure energy by this warrior maiden, Lady Ephrodite is one of the few characters who came off as smart as they think they are and someone capable of hanging in the same league as glorious Shax, if not for one tiny problem. She's barely around. She shows up in Rise of Iron, which is in broad strokes no longer canon, and was an Iron Banner vendor at one point. She even has some of the better feats in the verse, such as sniping down more Cabal than she has bullets while being depowered. The sheer balls of Lady Ephrodite puts her way ahead of almost everyone else on the list, and her skill and tenacity only adds to the appeal she has. Unfortunately, that doesn't quite bring her to the glorious Shax tier. Eris Morn. More like Eris Moan, am I right?
Boo!
Okay, bad joke. She goes in B tier for a simple reason. Like, man, we gotta protect. No loot, only protect. which means that despite her importance to the plot of both games, feats that leave lesser beings quaking in terror and possibly in their pants, she's been through too much to have the internet virgins trying to turn her into big titty goth GF, which I would totally do if I was a monster. But sadly, for that reason, she doesn't get the thirst points. Next, Ava Levante. Now, I'm not some brainless Neanderthal who can't appreciate the appeal of an older woman, especially one so intent on giving out confectionery delights like the good Ava Levante. And God help you if you don't report back to her before anyone else. Zavala, he's a wimp. Ikora, what's she gonna do if I take an extra week to do a bounty? Ava Levante will straight up murder you if you keep her waiting on those reports, even if they're not for her. She's honestly kind of terrifying. The only reason she's so low is because we all know she's really Savathun, and she just won't own up to it. Even if Bungie comes out and says she's not Savathun, that's just what she wants us to think. She's been the real final boss since the beginning, and the fact is she lets us ice her brother, the Taken King Oryx, who she will no doubt either bring back to laugh at or take the place of. It is for this deceit alone that she is, officially, trash tier. The Exo Stranger. Elsie Bray, also known as the Exo Stranger, is one of the fundamental parts of the current Destiny timeline. Without her interference in the first game, the world would be a lot different. The untold change to our future caused by her arrival to guide us to fighting the Vex and killing the Heart of the Black Garden led to some of Destiny's best time. Unfortunately, this is also the future where we got Destiny 2. Still, as a plot device, she's the single most important character of all time, and with hints of her return, her story is one of the only reasons I may have for picking the game back up, assuming Bungie doesn't royally screw this up. Easy A tier. Failsafe. Oh, Failsafe, the unironically best character in all of Destiny. It's an honest shame to talk about her before anyone else, so I'll save her for last. Moving on. Hawthorne. Oh boy, from best to worst in 2 seconds flat, huh? Hawthorne was easily one of the worst characters Destiny 2 brought out, as she's almost irrelevant the very second we get back to the city. She doesn't do much against the Red Legion, complains about Guardians being so stuck up their own ass that she fails to see through the blindings of her own intestinal tract. And when she has the gall to come to the city and offer her help with, I guess you're not so bad, it leaves me more frustrated than anything. Easily trashed here. Ikora Rey. Ikora is a character so irrelevant to modern Destiny that they've even gone as far as to take her gimmick, the whole replaying quests through visions things, away from her. She does little in the story besides whine about not understanding the Traveler or her purpose, and as the last one we get before the final battle, has the least growth in that regard. She's only around because she's one of the big three, but events supplanted by Osiris as the all-knowing warlock, and doesn't have the meme power of Zavala or the tragic death of Cade to propel her to anything more than D tier, which is a mercy ranking for what is supposed to be a storied character that you never hear about anymore. Lakshmi. The fact that I forgot what her name was for a moment is rather telling of my thoughts on the representative of the future war cult, which leads me to two problems. First, faction rallies. Second, future war cult. Two of the worst things this side of Eververse. And not only is she forgettable, she loses out to Arak I need more salvage for my goats Jalal and Executor make Zavala King Hideo. These two are legitimately insane, but at least they're not Gendo Akari levels of messed up with a side of lobotomies for everyone. Then give guns to the brainless husk because that's always worked so well. Trash tier. Next! Marasov and Petrovenge. Marasov is an angsty teen playing at being a BDSM fetish queen whose constant attempts to get our attention are only as pathetic as her attempts to tell us she's not trying to get our attention. Given her suitors are Lord Shax, who was so out of her league that he kept his helmet on lest he blind her with the sheer radiance of his beauty, necessitating that she get it from the back, again, lest seeing the incoming Fist of Havoc frighten her enough to drop the whole act altogether. Her brother, which parallels her to Cersei, who, if she goes down that path, blueprints her as one of the worst failed tyrants ever, and the God Emperor of Simps herself, Petrovenge. The fact that you could tattoo for the queen over Petra's face and it would give her more character than she actually has is astounding. Despite all this, though, they're both actually well written and meaningful to the story in ways that transcend their own self interest. They have a tangible effect on the world, and it's almost scary to think about what they're going to do in their own self centered quests. A tier, both. Omnigul. S tier, easy. She's responsible for the return of Crota, a feat that led us to the defeating of the Taken King himself and setting the stage for everything that's happened in a post-Stranger Blackgarden timeline. And she's a screamer, which I can totally get behind. Riven. On one hand, we have a wish-granting hellspawn that could take any conceivable form for your viewing pleasure. On the other, you have to convince this thing not to murder you before playing Let's Make a Deal. Also, Riven facilitated the above Shaxx feat. Yes, that is a Shaxx feat. And for that alone gets points. The only real problem is being a raid boss, which means we have to kill her before we can engage in various forms of wish granting. Middle of the road, C tier. Sagira. S tier. She's witty, has a voice that hits like pure chef's kiss. And she shuts up Nolan Droid for a solid minute, so that's nice. Being a fixture of ourselves during the Osiris DLC, she lands a lot better than other characters through sheer proximity. She isn't annoying and helps the player out, narrative-wise, and she's never baggage. Not really an important character overall, but the little detour we do get with her is nice enough that I can't find anything wrong with her. I guess being part of Curse of Osiris can be considered a fault, but she was the best part of it, so moving on. Sloane. I have nothing for Sloane. She's not notable, sitting in the same place in my head as Asher Mirror. Doesn't do anything, doesn't go anywhere, and will probably get killed by the Dorito ships. And nothing of value would have been lost. Trash tier. Tyra Karn. Same problem as the rest of the D2 vanilla roster. She doesn't do anything. They even reduce her to a functioning amnesiac for the majority of the story, and once we get the city and Master Raoul back, there's never a need to go to her. She's like the farm, wholly redundant and long past expiration. Trash tier.
The Emissary. The Emissary of the Nine, or in the Lost, Nassan R. This lady has more names than she has lines of unique dialogue. She was the overseer of the Trials of the Nine, a game mode which was only available for 3 days at a time for only the first year of Destiny 2. And while the rumors circulated about the possibility of her being the Awoken Queen resurrected by the Nine for some nefarious purpose, she ultimately turned out to be nobody, a literal waste of everyone's time and speculation. For that crime, and the others like it, she goes in trash tier.
Tess Everest. Someone commented on the original Twitter post that Tess should be in a bottom tier all her own. So here she is, the lowest of the low for the lowest of the low. Her only use has always been to be a cash sink for the worst practices that have stifled the game in every way. Get her out of my list. Anyway, back to some wholesome content. Failsafe. Failsafe is single-handedly the best character in all of Destiny. By an unintentional design. Most of the characters never grow past their initial characterizations. The only outliers at the moment are Aldrin and the Ace of Spades. A gun has more character development than most of the characters. Except Failsafe. Failsafe's design as a character lends itself to more characterization than others because she's two characters. Because of her rampant mood swings or multiple personalities or whatever you want to classify her condition as, she forces the writers to handle her in two radically different ways throughout the time we spend with her. As such, she has more nuance than the other characters whose entire character revolves around one specific thing. Failsafe does too, but her thing is being a well-written character with a hidden layer that has trouble hiding. Like she has Sundari Tourette's. Just having the ability to have her say one thing and immediately after have her go, "I actually meant I hate your guts and will laugh when you die," gave her so much more than Anna, "Our victory, Bray," or Miss, "I don't have time to explain why I don't have time to explain." And for that, Failsafe not only gets an S tier, but number one waifu in all of the Destiny community.